Welcome to the Mick, a Mook, and a Mike. Hosted by four-time Emmy-nominated producer Frank Mace and retired New York City firefighter, 9/11 first responder, and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor.
Today's guest, writer, author, director, from Golden Girls to Roseanne to Gilmore Girls, Stan Zimmerman.
My brother
Frankie, how you doing, pal?
Good. Our guest today is Stan Zimmerman, multi-hyphenate, writer, producer, director, everything.
I started looking at his credits. I swear to God, I think there's 3 of them.
There probably is.
2 or 3 of them anyway. The guy does everything.
My friend Larry Wilmore once said, it's all about streams of diversification when you're making money in this business. So Stan is diversified as possible. He's got money coming in from all angles. But we'll catch up to him. We'll catch up to him a little bit later.
He's got money coming in from all angles.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
I like him. I tell you what, that's what they tell you in economics classes, right? Have as many streams of income as you can.
That's correct.
I have many streams going the other way.
Speaking of streams, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, good. Meatloaf was. We had your favorite. No, it was good. It's always good. You know, I mean, I do most of the cooking. As you know, I'm.
You're a gourmand.
I like to fool around in the kitchen. I don't know about fool around any place I can get my hands on it, but in the kitchen I like to cook around. So I cook some lasagna.
And Derek, how was yours?
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, who can complain about Thanksgiving? It's such a great time.
Manufactured holiday, though, really?
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Manufactured
exactly.
holiday. The pilgrims killed a turkey.
Yeah, you know what?
And they said, let's give thanks for being here.
You know one thing? I give you a historical fact about that thing about the Pilgrims. Nope. Fair play to everybody in America. They sort of celebrate it. Wonderful. But the Pilgrims, they used to teach us in school that they left England because of religious persecution.
Right.
Nobody was persecuting them in England.
Nobody?
The reason they left is because they couldn't persecute everybody else for what they believed. So they went first to Amsterdam. They went to Holland. And the Dutch threw them out on their ass. They said, we don't want these people there. They're unbelievable. All they do is prohibit this, prohibit that, prohibit that. And then they went off to America and slaughtered all the inhabitants. And now we celebrate it.
They discovered America.
Yeah. They
discovered people that were already here.
And said, well, these guys are savages. We'll just kill them all. Unbelievable. Yeah, so we celebrate.
That's the American legacy.
And what we do, they fed them, and then they fed them,
slaughtered.
then they slaughtered them.
By the way, speaking of that, have you seen Killers of the August Moon?
Not yet. You know, I mean, I'm going to check it out, I guess, because, I mean, I like Scorsese and everything. But did you see it?
Yeah, Derek, did you see it?
No.
Good, bad, indifferent?
I think maybe indifferent with a little lean toward good. It was a great story. I mean, the story of what we were just talking about, how the white people basically took over the Indians' land because the Indians were rich. They discovered oil on their land.
Oh, okay. It's about them robbing their oil and pushing them off the reservations to other places.
And killing them.
That's a weird story. Never heard that before.
Yeah. So you should see it. I'll be interested in
I'd like to
hearing
see
what
it.
you think.
You know what I'm interested in seeing is, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Scorsese was, Scorsese had a lot of excess in the movie. So the movie's like 3 hours and 10 minutes.
It's the same thing with The Irishman.
3 hours, 10 minutes.
I think he could have cut a half an hour out of The
Come
Irishman.
on.
Yeah, why?
No,
what do you think?
It's art.
It's art.
The guy's telling a story his way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can still got to be edited. I mean, editing is the deal, right? I mean,
well, that's part of the deal. But he had one scene where he had 250, 300 extras in a party scene on the streets of the Old West, and one guy, DiCaprio, was running through it, and he maybe said 2 words, and the scene lasted 10 seconds.
Okay.
10, 15 seconds.
What about, did it give you a feeling? Did you feel something?
He gave me a feeling of waste. He gave me a feeling.
Producer, he said, we don't need that scene. Cut that.
Of course, he could have been running through 2 people saying the same thing.
Right.
It probably took,
I completely
took a long.
Talking about grand scale like that.
Talking about he did it in The Irishman.
Yeah.
I
thought The Irishman was much too.
He did it in The Aviator.
Yeah.
He had a lot of party scenes that.
Speaking of that grand scale, I'm really looking forward to seeing Napoleon. That's something I could get behind.
Yeah.
And Ridley Scott too is.
And who's the actor?
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean he's a great Napoleon. When I look at him, I just see Napoleon.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you. They play Josephine as a whore, which he probably was. I mean, because I know that Napoleon was. What I read about Napoleon was super insecure with women.
Well, when they make the movie Josephine, she'll be the Virgin Mary.
Yeah, they got to play. She was definitely sleeping with one of his people in the army when he was off on his campaigns. But I mean,
a woman has her needs.
It's par for the course.
So, in defense of Marty Scorsese, what were you going to say, Derek?
I don't remember. I just think I think it's, for me, if a scene gives, even if you think it's overindulgent, I think that if a scene gives you a feeling, which is like, for instance, you're talking about walking between two people versus 300. Like that's a completely different feel for the audience when you see somebody walk through 300 people versus 2. So, and I think if it inspires a feeling in the audience, I think it's necessary.
Yeah, the feeling in the audience that inspired was this fucking movie's too long. and it was preceded by a fucking half an hour worth of garbage. I mean, there was like 15 minutes of commercials with this Maria Menounos or whatever her name is.
Oh, you mean in the theater?
In the theater.
Okay.
And they showed the same Pepsi commercial 4 times.
That drives me crazy. You go to the movies, it's bad enough you got to pay $20 to get in, and they're going to hit you with a whole lot of commercials.
Yeah, and then after those 20 minutes of commercials, there was 10 minutes of coming attractions, which is good.
I like coming attractions.
I like coming attractions too, but by the end of it, that's 30 minutes we're in the theater before a 3-hour and 10-minute movie. 3-hour and 10-minute movie started.
Wow, this is really a senior class.
I think we just got insulted. I'm not sure. Pay attention, I think we got insulted.
But you know what? I love that commercial where you're becoming your parents. I don't know who did it. I don't know who did it.
Oh, that's that insurance guy, right? Yeah,
insurance guy.
You're becoming
Nationwide or something.
I'd like to shoot that prick. I don't like that guy at all. I don't know how he got on TV. You know what? I can't get out of my head. Wherever, I guess I watch old Twilight Zones, whatever I'm watching. They advertise for this drug, Sky-Rizzy, right?
Sky-Rizzy.
I love the name of the thing, Sky. I don't even know what it's for, but I feel like taking it because I love the name. I'm taking Sky-Rizzy.
And then they have 10 seconds of a fast talker who talking about all the things that you can do.
That it causes.
Yeah.
All the side effects.
If the side effects is a stroke or heart attack, stop immediately. It's like that's
good idea.
That's like Cialis. You know, if it causes erection for more than 4 hours, call a doctor.
If I got an erection for more than 4 hours, I ain't calling a doctor.
You're gonna have a heart attack.
No, I'm calling about 6 hookers. That's what I'm doing. Look at this thing. Make it go away. They know how to cure that thing.
Yeah.
Never mind calling a doctor. I'd be calling newspapers. Hey, listen to this. 4 hours. I'm 75 years old. 4 hours.
Wow. You are.
That is a commercial in itself.
That is a commercial indeed. Indeed.
Sky-Rizzy. That's what you want.
Well, let's diversify and let's get Stan Zimmerman on the phone, Billy, if you will. And Derek.
You talk about diversity. This is the guy.
Boy, he is diverse.
Without a doubt, eclectic.
He's written for Golden Girls, Gilmore Girls. He's got a new movie coming out on Lifetime, Ladies of the 80s, a Divas Christmas, starring Morgan Fairchild, Lonnie Anderson, Donna Mills, Linda Gray, and Nicolette Sherman. He'll be a great guy. Derek, can you get him?
Perfect.
I've got all my merch.
As do we.
As do we, of course you do.
As do we.
Can you see us?
Now I can. You've got your coffee. I've got my coffee with espresso in it.
Lovely.
Nice.
Hey.
A double jolt. How are you, Stan? Nice to know you, brother.
Billy O'Connor. That's
How you doing?
Derek Harris.
Hello.
We're taping this. We're taping this to air before your movie, Ladies of the 80s, a Divas Christmas. A Divas Christmas. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Who's in it? How did it happen?
Are we already filming?
Yeah, sure.
You don't want to ask him what he had for breakfast?
What did you have for breakfast?
Espresso. Breakfast of champions.
I just took a 12. 14-day cruise from Hong Kong to Singapore, stopping in Vietnam and Thailand. So I don't know what day it is or time, but
That's
there you go.
I got to ask you right away, what was your favorite country in a bunch? Hong Kong? I've been in all of them. Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. So what was your favorite?
I have to say, too, Vietnam was fascinating just for me, having grown up with it, always on a little black and white TV during dinner. So hearing that, being a young kid and remembering when the draft came out in the newspaper, obviously I was too young, but thinking, what would I do if my birthday?
Well, Billy chose to enlist, so he spent a year in Vietnam.
Yeah, I spent the year in Vietnam, in northern Thailand, actually, Laotian border, a place called Nakhon Phanom, which I'm not even sure if it's on the map anymore, but it was right on the Laotian border, monitoring the Mekong River.
And I managed to draw number 4 in the draft, but I got out because I broke my wrist playing soccer, and I
Broke your rib?
Yeah.
So your favorite country was Nam, Thailand?
I think on just an educational part of it, I thought Singapore was fascinating.
Cool.
I'm very much into architecture, so the modern architecture there was just extraordinary in the way they incorporate keeping it green. So they had a lot of the buildings, vines and nature were incorporated in the design of the building.
You know, it blew me away architecturally. I'm not anywhere near an architect or anything imaginable like that, but in Hong Kong, how the hell they built those, the British built those things on the side of the mountains. It's incredible. I mean, it's like, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's like building it on a cliff, all the buildings they put up there.
Yeah, it's pretty wild in the density of it and everything built straight up.
Yeah.
So I was constantly taking pictures of just the homes, how different they live. It was pretty wild to see the difference between someplace like Singapore and Da Nang and.
Had you ever been there before?
No.
So
great trip, man! Really cool trip.
Yeah, it was really great. So now I'm watching. I just started the Ken Burns documentary. So
about Nam.
Yeah. So I wanted. I knew a little bit about it, but then you go there and you hear from the people that lived there, their perspective.
Oh.
And as a writer, it's just I love just grabbing and pulling in knowledge. That's something I learned really early on. I started acting when I was 7.5, and an acting teacher said, just go out to a mall and watch people and listen. And so my writing partner, Jim Berg, who Frank, we still do that today. We go and we sit in somewhere and we start doing the dialogue of people across the way from us, imagining what they are saying. And it's kind of been our method of putting ourselves in people's shoes, and sometimes in high heels, like we did with the ladies of the 80s.
Yeah.
How's that for a transition?
That's a great transition. Why don't you tell us about the ladies of the 80s, A Divas Christmas?
Yeah, so that came about, we were actually in Dallas. We were world premiering a play called Silver Foxes that initially started as a TV pilot that logo started, but then nobody wanted to make. Even after I had in my living room a cast assembled that included George Takei, the late Leslie Jordan, Todd Sherry, Bruce Valanche, Melissa Peterman, Sherry O'Terry, Danielle Gaither. It was insane, and the pictures become famous. And then after logo passed, because they didn't have money to produce a live-action multicam, no network or studio would even open the script to read it.
Yeah, they weren't brave enough.
They said, they did. Some didn't say these exact words, but some said it wasn't broad appeal. But others actually said the demos are too old, the characters are too old, and it's a gay show. So there you go. And as much as we would yell, but Golden Girls, they still wouldn't listen. So Frank, a little bit about me, but I don't take no for an answer lightly. So I just figured a way around it. So we decided to turn it into a theatrical play. It's my third play that has been licensed and produced. The wonderful and extremely talented Michael Urie from Ugly Betty, and now the Apple TV series Shrinking, directed it. We were in Dallas. We were about to open, doing little rewrites in it as rehearsals were starting, and got a call from our old assistant, Jason Wood, who's now the head of casting at Lifetime, and he said, I thought of you guys today because we have 5 actresses that want to do a Christmas movie, but it has to be written before the strike, which was May 1st. This is now close to the end of March, mind you. Think about that.
Yeah.
So at the time, it was Joan Collins, Jacqueline Smith, Donna Mills, Linda Gray, and Morgan Fairchild. I said, give me 10 minutes, we'll get back to you.
Did it take more than a minute for Jim to say okay?
Yeah, it's so in our jam from writing Golden Girls and Gilmore Girls and all the girls. And so we set up a Zoom meeting the next day. So it had to be those 5 actresses, shot in 15 days, one location.
Wow.
The location you could cheat,
Yeah,
different rooms. But we're like, okay, well, our head exploded with ideas. We came back and pitched about 6. And I've never had this. They said, well, which one do you want to do? We're like, we're the writers. But so we picked the one that we thought, because of the time constraint. And also, we had noticed that almost all of them had gotten their start on daytime soap operas. I was kind of an ABC fan of the shows, One Life to Live, All My Children, General Hospital. I kind of grew up with my mother watching them. And and they're all being canceled. Those days were over with the daytime soap operas. So we thought, what if their show was canceled and they were going to do one more live Christmas Day episode and bring 5 of the divas back from the TV show? And that's the movie.
And what was the experience like working with them?
Well, unfortunately, we were not allowed on set because of the strike.
Wow.
So that was not great. I mean, that was the bad part. The good part is they couldn't change many of our lines.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we lost Joan Collins and Jacqueline Smith because when they went to film it, they had such a small window and they already had projects that they couldn't get out of. And that's when Lonnie Anderson and Nicolette Sheridan came into it.
And who directed?
Christy Wolf. She's a Canadian director. And so I didn't know her. We weren't involved in any of that. Alec Mapp is also in it, Patricia Darbo, Christopher Atkins. So we got quite a cast, and we're hoping that people watch it. It's successful, and it could possibly be a series, or we would take those characters and, they go on a spring vacation. And so we have a lot of ideas, I hope.
And this is going to air December 2nd on Lifetime?
Premieres on December 2nd, and then we'll play throughout. It was a very different Christmas movie for them. I'm sure people know and they love that they have very formulaic love stories. Somebody ends up in their old hometown, and there's their old high school sweetheart, and those are the Hallmark and Lifetime films. So we do have a young love story in it. The writer-producer of the daytime soaps actually started out as one of their babies in the soap opera. And Frank, you remember dealing with some little kids on Something Wilder. And then they hire a director. The guy does someone who went to film school with a woman that there's romantic interest.
Have you seen a movie yet?
I have not.
So it's going to be a surprise to you.
No, I will see it before then. I think they're just finishing up last minute touches on it. And
Now, Bill, does that surprise you, Billy, that the writer hasn't seen a movie yet?
Yeah, I'm just about to intercede there and say, how does that work? I mean, do they send you like a pre-shoot of the movie? They show you the first cut of the movie? They don't do that? They don't? It's not an automatic?
Normally it is. This one, it was not, I think because of the strike and all of that. So by the time the writer's strike ended, they couldn't really change very much of it. So that was too bad about it, because I think, we obviously have had enough experience between writing and show running and editing. I think we could have helped it. Also, because it was not a typical Lifetime movie, they kept saying it's so funny. I was like, well, it's a comedy.
Yeah, well,
I think what they were, the network really wanted that young love story, but we kept saying people are going to come to this movie for those 5 ladies.
of course.
And I think they came around to that. It's just something they didn't have experience with, because they don't usually have that much comedy in their movies, and they don't cater to older audiences that are in love with those 5 women. And the response has been, it's now, their tentpole movie. And just the small bit of publicity that's been done on it is just exploded, because people can't believe we have those 5 ladies in one movie.
Of course.
And it's going to be super fun. So, all of our, very dry, witty, bitchy lines going to be in it? Probably not. There will have to be a European version of it, or when we get to do a series of it, we'll really go in depth with them. But, I've admired these women from afar for a long time. So it's
And you had
really,
never worked with any of them, but-
no,
but you knew their voices quite well.
Oh yeah, of course, quite well. I didn't really watch those kind of soap operas. We had actually, Jim and I had pitched to Joan Collins. That was the only one we had met before. When we had our overall deal at Lorimar, we pitched her a show, a very funny show about, royalty has always been so big. America's so fascinated with it, but about a royal family that had to suddenly flee from their country, and they came to America with nothing except their title, and they kind of scammed on their title. So it was very funny. Again, dry show. We went up.
I wonder how much real life has parodied that scene with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
Yeah. So, well, Frank, let's go pitch it.
It's already written.
I got to tell you, I'm not in the business. I mean, I'm just a broken down fireman and writer. But I was about 11 years old when I met Joan Collins. I met her for all of 30 seconds backstage at Anthony Newley's place. She was married to Anthony Newley, and the play was "Stop the World, I Want to Get Off." And I was in the Schubert Alley, because I had a big thing about Newley. I thought he was amazing. I thought that, the one-man show, it wasn't a one-man show, but it was basically a one-man show. Leslie Bercuse, I think, did the lyrics and stuff. And I saw Joan Collins, and I was about 11 years old, and she was drop-dead gorgeous. And I almost dropped dead looking at her. I said, oh my God, one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life. So, yeah, I think even at this stage of the game, if she was in it, I'd go see it. But that's a hell of a cast.
Yeah, so we always thought she was very funny and just not gotten credit for being funny. So we went after her to do a multicam show. And, Frank, as you know, you go up to their houses, you sell yourself, and she was in. And a lot of the story is in my book, The Girls from Golden to Gilmore.
And it's going to be released in February and available for pre-order.
Pre-orders are now through Amazon. I was number 1, oddly, for in my categories for the first week that I announced it. So I have a whole section called The Next Lucy. So Jim and I would meet with a lot of women, and they all wanted to be the next Lucy, including Joan Collins. And so we spent some time developing this project with her. And in the end, I shouldn't give it away. I guess you have to read the book, what happened with that project. But we did get to spend some time with her. We did, on this project, because we were in such a rush, we did a couple phone calls with Joan, with Morgan Fairchild, and Linda Gray. So I got to talk to them on the phone. I'm looking forward to meeting them in person very soon.
Will there be a premiere?
I don't know if Lifetime does that. It would be really, I would like to get out of the house and see people. And see it up on the big screen, which I think would be super cool. I think it would draw a lot of attention. Yeah, but there's already going to, through Gilmore Girls and the fan festivals that I go to with Gilmore Girls, they're going to do like some viewing, like group viewing online. So
Yeah.
we'll be doing that.
Do you remember the last time we saw each other in person?
Yes, and that's in the book too.
How about that? You made the book, Frank.
In at Memphis
At Graceland.
at Graceland. So Jim and I were developing a musical with Priscilla Presley. We had to go in and meet Priscilla Presley and pitch ideas to do a musical about her life story. You know, we've heard a lot about Elvis's, but from her point of view, which is so interesting because now there's that Sofia Coppola movie.
Yep. And then she doesn't come off very well in that, I hear.
Well, you know, she was a producer on it.
Oh.
So I think she thinks she does. There's some controversy about her daughter thought before she passed that it was not a good idea. I did get to meet Lisa Marie at must have been, how old is Priscilla now?
I don't know, 75, 70?
Yeah, I think we went to her either 65th birthday party, maybe. I met Lisa Marie, and it's in the book. And so we went to Memphis. We got the job. They flew us to Memphis to spend some time touring Memphis with her, which was crazy. So we ran into you there in line. So
Wow.
we were
Yeah,
getting.
I was driving my daughter cross country to Lexington because she was going to the University of Kentucky, and I said, "Do you mind making a side trip to Graceland?" So she grunted and she groaned and she said, "Yeah." So we got to Graceland, and there's like a 3-hour line to get up there, and we're sort of debating whether we should go or not. And I look off in the distance and I say,
Wait a minute, I got a hook.
Wait a minute. There's Stan Zimmerman and Jim Berg.
That's crazy.
We can go up with them.
I got a hook.
So they said, "Yeah, come on. So we go with them, and they said, the guard says, "No, there's only 2 names on the list, and they're not yours."
Wow.
So we never got up to Graceland.
You know, you had written a blog about that, and I didn't connect it until just now.
I had written a blog about it. You co-wrote the book with me,
I
you
know, and
schmuck.
you wrote a chapter about it too.
We
You wrote a blog about it.
wrote a
But you
chapter.
wrote it up again in the blog.
Have we ever met?
Yeah, I know you. We write together. don't we?
We tried, Frank. So
I know you
We
did.
got a little tour, and then we were supposed to meet her. This is all in the book, so you're getting a little preview. We were supposed to meet Priscilla at night. We wanted her to give us like the real tour upstairs, which they're not allowed. And at the last minute, she called us and she said she just couldn't go. The memories and the smells were too intense for her.
Wow.
And so we didn't get the private tour. But we did drive around. She took us to, they had like a farm outside of Memphis. And we also surprised her. We got there a day early and we were just, you know, looking for cool things to do. We found this restaurant in an old beauty shop. Not knowing this is where she went to get her beehives done when she was in high school.
That's great.
And
crazy.
So we said to her the next day, we said, "Let's meet for lunch." We didn't tell her where we were going. We said, "Here's the address." She gets there and she goes, "This looks familiar." And we're like, "Well, yes, this is where you got your hair done." We walk in with her. Well, the place nearly like, you know, it just stopped everything.
Yeah.
And we had just a great afternoon with her in that place.
That's a great experience.
It's got to be wild going into a restaurant with her. It's like taking King Kong to the beach. You know what I mean?
Well, she taught me a lot about, you know, thinking what that was like. And Elvis, you know, told her at a young age, be very protective because most people want to be friends with you because of me. So we were working this musical, and while we took a trip to New York with her to see a bunch of shows. We were meeting with the director, Wayne Cilento, of Wicked, and saw Wicked with her the day before it opened. A little show called Wicked, I think it's still going on.
I saw a preview of that too.
Yeah.
Broadway preview. It was great.
And this is also in the book, but I'll never forget walking out with her, and she said, "Can the two of you stand on each side of me?" And we're like, "Okay." We're walking back to her limo, and all of a sudden, out from behind these pillars, paparazzi would jump out to scare her,
Wow.
because if she reacted in a weird way, you'd get a weird, funny picture. And we got in the limo. I'm like, "Does this happen all the time to you?" And she's like, "Yes, that's her.
It's her life.
That's her life."
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Well, I haven't seen you now in probably 25 years or so, but you don't look any different.
Yeah, there's a lot different. But anyway,
How's Jim?
Jim is doing great. He's spending a lot of time in Joshua Tree. Him and his husband bought a place down there, and they opened an art gallery and a bunch of. They bought up properties, and they have rentals down there as well.
Diversified streams of revenue.
You have to,
Again.
yeah.
So tell us about Golden Girls. How did you get into that?
Golden Girls.
And our previous guest, Adrienne Barbeau, was a star of Golden Girls.
She was?
No, that was she wasn't a star of Golden Girls. She was a star of
She was.
she was a star of Maude.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
One of the Golden Girls.
I did meet Adrienne Barbeau. She came to one of the first plays I wrote called Meet and Greet, which is about 5 actresses of a certain age auditioning for a really bad new sitcom pilot written by 2 men. And she came to that. I think it's something she could relate to. As you can too, Frank. Not the bad sitcom part, but so Golden Girls came about. I was living in New York, went to NYU, met Jim there. We started writing in between classes and after school jobs. I was sick of being poor in New York, and my 5th floor walk up in Chelsea, and we moved to LA, and we started going to tapings because we couldn't afford to do anything else. We saw a new show at Paramount that hadn't been on the air yet, and we'd written maybe 3 or 4 pilots, 3 or 4 spec scripts, sorry. And we saw this new show, and we thought, this is the kind of humor that is ours. And the show was Cheers, and so we were one of the first Cheers specs, and that was just the one. The minute everybody read it, it was just like,
wow,
who are these guys? And we went from nobody returning our phone call to suddenly everybody wanted to meet us, agents and everybody. And we got offered a bunch of shows in one season and took a show that our friend and mentor, Gary Keeper, did you ever know him?
I did not.
Yeah. He has passed years ago. And we took a show there on ABC, which didn't last very long, but it got us a pilot at CBS. And we did a couple of episodes like One of Fame, a Chad Lowe show. We were about to write a Valerie episode. We got hired for that. And then we went in and pitched at Golden Girls before it was on the air. So it was that first summer. You go in and you watch there were no DVDs or cassettes. We went into the office to watch the pilot. And then we went back, pitched a bunch of episode ideas. They didn't like any of them. And then we were walking out the door, and I turned around and said, what if Rose's mother came to visit? And they said, come back in. We like that idea.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, just last minute. And we wrote that pretty quickly, and they brought us on really fast because, as Frank, it's hard to find people that can write good first drafts.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up writing 3 scripts that season. It's just staff writers.
Now you were nominated for a Writers Guild Award for that particular episode, right? For Rose's Mother?
We did. And we got there, and they put us literally next to the podium in front. So I thought, obviously, we've won. They don't want us to walk that far. We did not, however, and it was very humbling. But, I mean, it was just so exciting to be...
Right. You went from 0 to 60.
That's great.
You went from a 5-floor walk up to sitting in the front row of an award ceremony.
And you were
Well-
nominated for Roseanne, episode of Roseanne as well.
Yes.
Don't ask,
yes.
don't tell.
So
Um,
Tracy Gamble was on that writing staff, wasn't he?
Not when we were there. So you mean on Golden
Golden
Girls?
Girls.
No, it was a small group. It was Mort Nathan and Barry Finero, Winnie Hervey, Grossman and Spears, and us.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a small little group.
Yeah,
Very scary.
back in the days when they could write situation comedies with 5 people instead
Not
of
like
instead of
Roseanne.
14.
Roseanne, we had 21 writers, so
Yeah.
we would break
Wow.
up into little rooms, and Jim and I were put in charge of all of Roseanne and Tom's stand-up comic friends. But it was like Norm Macdonald and Pat Bullard, and it was, really Lois Bromfield, and they were hysterical people, but they hadn't written before, so they just kept pitching these really funny jokes, and we had to teach them the jokes have to come from characters, not just a funny line, and especially on a show like Roseanne. And so, I take with great pride that a lot of those writers went on to have big careers.
Mm.
But that was a scary show. I mean, she was scary.
Yeah, I mean, who was running the show? Who was running the show the year that you were on it, or the 2 years that you were on it, or during that time? Because there were a lot of guys or gals running the show.
Well, when we were offered season 1 and we passed on it. Isn't
Wow.
that crazy?
Good thing.
Wow.
We had been on overall deals at that point, and when they give you these offers, it's like 7 years, and the show hadn't even been cast. It was just Roseanne, who we loved. When I saw Roseanne when she did her first Johnny Carson, I think, appearance. I don't know why. I just suddenly woke up in the middle of the night. I'd gone to sleep and turned it on, and she was on. And the next day, I called our agent and said, "Who is this woman? Can you get us in touch with her? I think there's a series there." And our agent said, literally, that nobody in America would buy a show starring a fat
Wow.
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 one. He's no longer our agent.
Just for the record.
Just for the record. No, but I mean, there. Back then there was a very standard way people looked on sitcoms, and that's what was so great about her show is that it was harken back a little bit to the Norman Lear shows, but just looked like normal everyday people, and the stories were about the middle class of America. And I grew up in a suburb of Detroit and very middle class. In another full circle moment, I was asked to go to Moscow to develop a Russian Roseanne show in 2015.
Whoa.
That's a whole story.
It's in your book, I'm sure.
It's in the book. How did you know?
Gotta be.
What was the name of the book?
The girls from Golden to Gilmore. Yeah, so that was very scary too. But Roseanne, the whole Roseanne experience on many levels were very scary.
Yeah, well, you want to talk about scary. In 1988, I went to Moscow to produce the first Head of the Class, the first show ever produced in Moscow. That's in our book.
Yes, I read your book. Yeah, I wish I had read it before I went, or maybe I wouldn't have gone. I did watch that Phil Rosenthal documentary twice. I actually had a great time there. I would, love to go back and made great friends. Obviously now's not the time to go back, but I'm so glad I had that experience, even though at the time I kept hoping for a job here that would keep me from doing it. But I'm glad,
Yeah.
I lived in Moscow. I big runner. I was doing my morning jogs through Red Square.
That's intimidating.
It's got to
isn't
be
it?
wild.
It is wild.
Great way to see a place.
It
Though,
is,
jogging. Jogging's a great way to see anything.
But let's get back to Roseanne. So you didn't take you didn't take
take the first season, and then she was really smart. She waited until Laurie Metcalf and John Goodman were available because she knew she hadn't really acted, and she wanted to surround herself with funny people. And I mean, those are two like the most brilliant actors. I mean, especially Laurie Metcalf. So then it came back around. As any career has its ups and downs, and then agents say, you guys need to write another spec script. And we're like, we've been nominated for Writers Guild Award. We did Golden Girls. But so we said, well, we're going to write a Roseanne spec. That's just a show we love. And we did. And, knowing that you never get hired for the show that you wrote the spec script because you just don't know the show as well as they do. But, every rule is meant to be broken. And they read our Roseanne and loved it. And we went over to Roseanne's house. She was not around. We met with Tom Arnold, and he hired us. Jay Daniel was, the fixer on the show, kind of, because remember, Carsey Werner, the producers, were not allowed on the set anymore.
Yeah, she was famous for that.
Yeah.
Bruce Helford was running the show one year, and she banned him from the set as well.
Yeah. And
he said he would write script pages and have to slip them under the door because he wasn't allowed in the writing room either.
Wow, she's tough, huh?
Yeah.
It was wild. So actually, Tom Arnold, I have to say, give him credit. He kept that ship going. I mean, he knew how to handle her. He had a lot of energy. He really liked us. We were told when we got the job, nobody pats anybody on the back here. And of course, we wanted the job. We respected the show so much. We're like, oh, it's okay. We don't need it. But you know what? You need it. And Jim and I learned a lot about show running by what we saw other people do that we didn't necessarily agree with. The hours are so long. You need just some affirmations like you're doing a good job. Every level, from
Sure.
the minute you drive onto the lot, the person at the gate. Everybody needs that. So that was just a really interesting experience. And they said, again, this is in the book, don't let Roseanne see the whites of your eyes or she can fire you.
Wow. So those lips could talk also.
Yeah. So I would go to run-throughs and just find the tallest guy and stand behind him with my script. And then we wrote the lesbian kiss episode, and then all of a sudden at one rehearsal down there, we hear her go, who the hell wrote this script? And everybody parted. And it was like, him and I were standing there, like, going to the Wizard of Oz, and we like crawled forward, and she was like, this is fucking funny. And
validation.
Yes.
From the highest source.
From her, to say that.
Wow.
And again, that's why, I have to thank her and Tom when the network and the studio said you could not put that on television. It was on the news every night. I'd get home at night and they'd be talking about our episode. And they said to ABC, if you don't put it on, we'll buy it back and we'll buy time on HBO and we'll air it there. They didn't have to do that.
Wow.
And ABC relented. Jim and I threw a huge benefit for GLAAD, covered by a lot of media. They aired the episode and it was huge rating. And, the world didn't explode. And, I think it laid part of the groundwork for Ellen, for Will and Grace. So it was that part was a great experience. And that's why it makes it so complicated when I see where Roseanne is today politically.
Yeah.
Because she always cared about the underdog, and I don't. Maybe it was the electric shock, or she's very open about her, different multiple personalities and.
What's that like, Billy?
Well, what happens is you jump on a horse and it gallops in 8 directions. That's pretty much
Who
what
are you
happens.
today, Billy?
Who are you today?
It depends. I got to ask you a question as a writer. I noticed some of the plays that you wrote, you also got nominated and won Best Director. Is it easier, I would imagine, to direct people in something that you wrote? I mean, I would imagine it's got to be easier.
Well, that's a complicated question. So I got into directing so that I was so sick of rewriting that like we do on sitcoms every day. I just wanted to take a play that was produced and directed and not have, network executives coming in saying, change this ending, or why did the girl say that? And I could pick my cast, I could pick my music, I could pick my costumes. It was less interference. I loved it. And then I was out in New York with a big Broadway producer, and he said, "You're a writer, right? Theater." I'm like, "Oh, nobody cares what my life story." And that's when I came up with the play idea about the actresses that we make actors sit in an audition room with their competition. And that turned into this play Meet and Greet, and that led to me writing a lot of plays and directing them because I had to self-produce them. There is a theory in mostly New York theater that they don't like the writer and the director to be the same person, as opposed to like in film. That happens a lot. They feel like they need another outside voice. I always find I hear it, I see it, I smell it.
You wrote it.
I wrote it. Jim and I see it in pictures. So it's very easy for me to do that. So I like directing. But then when I find like a friend like Michael Urie, who, I've helped him rewrite a lot of award shows that he hosts. So, we think so similarly, and he's just a genius comedically that that was cool to have him, direct that play. And I just like interpreting other plays, like I've been doing The Diary of Anne Frank. That's very, to me, that's where my heart is.
And what The Diary of Anne Frank has a twist, hasn't it?
The twist is, so in 2018, I was very affected by the child separation at the border by our last administration, and just thought that was so heartless to take you away from your parents. Like, I couldn't even imagine if that had happened to me. Thinking that was a deterrent, when, a lot of these people were coming here for a better life the way my family did. So I woke up another one morning, like Roseanne, and I saw a CNN report about a Jewish woman in Los Angeles that was hiding a Latina mom and her two daughters when her husband was deported by ICE. And I kind of jolted up and thought, we're literally living in the times of Anne Frank. And then a little light bulb went off, and I went, wait a minute, what if I directed Anne Frank, the play? Don't change a word of the script, but just cast everyone in the attic with Latinx actors.
Brilliant.
And to see where, I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but what are the similarities? Where are they not? Called my casting director friend, Julie Gale. She said, you have to drop everything and do it right now. We did. The first day of rehearsal, a friend texted me. It said, you're trending on Drudge and Breitbart. And I looked that up, and they were falsely accusing me as a liberal Jewish writer for rewriting the play and changing the Nazis to ICE agents. That story in 24 hours went worldwide, and I was getting death threats. The producers, the theater made us take down the marquee because they were getting death threats.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
And and I didn't change a word of it. I got the rights pulled from me from the licensing company. I had to get New York producers involved to say, trust him, he's not changing anything. And so we've been doing the play since 2018. We did 4 versions of it just this year, 3 at the Colony Theater in Burbank and 1 at the theater downtown LA. We went to a theater festival in Vancouver. And now we're kind of focusing on doing it for mostly students. And actually, Phil Rosenthal and his wife, Monica Horan, have been helping support us keeping the play alive. Because a lot of students don't know the story of Anne Frank.
They don't know the story of World War II or the Holocaust.
Yeah, so they don't, it's not required reading in schools anymore.
Unbelievable.
A lot of these kids are coming to the play. They have never been to a play before. They don't know the story. And then they see kids their age playing these parts. So they can really clue into what that would be like. And we've been doing the show. We always do a talk back. We have a wonderful woman, a 92-year-old Holocaust survivor, come speak, Gabriel Karen. And we did have a controversy in September when we did it. 2 boys in the beginning of the play, near the beginning, they did the Heil Hitler sign and said Heil Hitler out loud.
In the audience?
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, holy mackerel.
So that kind of freaked out my cast, and we had to explain to talkback why that was not appropriate. If they thought it was funny, it's not funny. And so there's a lot of education. Obviously, everything that's gone on since October 7th even makes me know I have to keep finding ways to do this play and bringing it to schools. And because a lot of the Holocaust survivors are now passing, since we've been doing the play, we've had, I think, 4 that have been involved with our talkbacks pass away. So it's going to be up to, this next artist generation to find other ways to tell the story. And we've had so many people come. We have a lot of Ukrainians come to the play this past time, and just one woman got up and was in tears. And she said, seeing this play done this way just made us realize we're all in this world together, and there's so many similarities to what's going on.
That's a brilliant concept. I, as an immigrant myself, you grew up in Michigan. You grew up in Southfield, Michigan, and you said your parents immigrated here from where?
Well, they didn't, but their
parents did.
Yeah,
so you're third generation.
Their grandparents did.
So you're fourth generation.
Yeah. So from actually Ukraine.
From the Ukraine. Wow. Yeah. Well, that's a great concept. I think to make that association is a terrific idea. Just brilliant.
Well, you got to come see it when we do it. We'll probably do it again in the spring. It pushes a lot of buttons. I've gotten a lot of.
It's a good thing.
From my I'm Jewish, and from my Jewish actor friends saying, "Why are you not casting just Jewish actors?" I have some Latin actors that are also Jewish, but the concept of the play is that the way I've staged it, it is about 2 Latin families being hidden by this Jewish woman in LA. Literally in the beginning of the play, she hands them scripts. They start reading them. And as they start reading them, the scripts slowly disappear. I start adding lights and sound, and they become the characters. So that's why it can't just be.
Yeah. Well, that's a brilliant concept as well.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to what Jim and I learned. The actors put themselves literally in the shoes of these characters. So in Act 2, they come back, and they're all in period costumes.
Well, what a good guest you are, Jim. Stan?
Stan or Jim.
Stan or Jim?
Either one. Well, that was one thing I did learn. One of the positive things my father did tell me about partnerships, because he had a partnership, that you're in it together. And if one person in the partnership succeeds, you both succeed. So we just always were like that. Or
the only bad thing is you have to split that fee.
That was that was not the fun part, but I never thought I could ever do anything on my own. And then there was a period after around Gilmore Girls where Jim just was busy in the desert and didn't want to be in that really tough schedule of sitcoms. So I kind of had to reinvent myself. We also got offered to be host showrunners on a Bravo reality series called Situation Comedy that Sean Hayes produced, and got the gig, and Jim didn't want to do it. So that was the time in my life, a fork, where I had to figure out how to do stuff on my own. But through that, it got me into theater and got me where I am today, doing plays, writing my own first play by myself, which I've been performing in around the United States. I'm going to be doing it in Austin, January 20th and 21st. And that deals with suicide. After a very close friend of mine died by suicide over 10 years ago. So, and then we're making a movie of it with Jonathan Prince producing and directing.
Is that Suicide Notes? Is that what it is?
It's now called Right Before I Go.
Right Before I Go. Great title, Right Before I Go.
Did you meet Jonathan on Something Wilder?
I did.
I recall. Jonathan almost saved the show. No, I'm serious. That we didn't have the best writing showrunner on that show.
You can say it.
Ruth Bennett was her name. And
So I know you had that. So Ruth actually went to my high school years before me.
Southfield?
Yeah, Southfield High.
I believe
then-
I believe my friend Mike Yellen, a racquetball champion, came out of Southfield, Michigan also.
Wow, that's crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I actually met Ruth. We had pitched to Family Ties, and she was in the room when we pitched. We didn't get an episode, but we got close with Gary David Goldberg, and he wanted us on a bunch of shows. That Gina Davis show, Sarah, we almost did. It was Gina Davis, Alfred Woodard, Bill Maher.
By the way, everybody in our business has a list of shows that we almost got.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Almost got.
Over and over and over
Over
again.
and over and over again. You get used to rejection for sure in this business.
That's just a part of it. I
Yep.
just saw something that said rejection is redirection.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep. I always say if after the first after you get somebody says no to you 50 times and you quit, you're unlucky. After they say no to you 500 times and you get something, that's luck.
What was, Frank, the show that you wanted to do that you didn't get to?
Oh shit! There are so many of them. I didn't get. What the heck was that show with Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt?
How about you?
Yeah, I didn't get that because Barnett. I'm going to tell a story. Barnett Kellman called me. Barnett Kellman was the director of Something Wilder, and he had directed Murphy Brown, and we had partnered up on like 5 or 6 sitcoms, all of which made the air. And Barnett was the second hottest director after Jim Burrows in show business. So Barnett directed the pilot of what was the name of the show?
Mad About You?
Mad About You. And he said, I want to hire you for Mad About You. But he didn't happen to tell Gary Goldberg this. So I went to meet Gary Goldberg, and Gary Goldberg wanted no part of me. And I had already been hired, but Barnett didn't have the authority to hire me. So when I went to meet him, I walked into the office, and I said, Bobby Beitler, who was a guy I went to high school with him, said to say hello. So that didn't work. And he said, excuse me for a second. He went into the toilet, and he yelled out from the toilet, questions. And that was my interview. And then he comes out of the toilet and he said, thanks. And I didn't get the show.
That was LBJ's trick. LBJ used to sit on the toilet and interview senators when they came in to disarm them.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious.
And I didn't get the show. It cost me like 6 years worth of income.
Blame LBJ.
So that was just one I didn't get, but I didn't really want that one anyway. But we have a litany of stuff we didn't get.
Unbelievable.
I got a question go ahead.
No.
Go ahead, Stan.
No, go on.
I was going to ask this question to Stan, but I think it's a good question for both of you guys. What are some concepts that you have in your mind that you wanted to pitch that are not on television now, but you keep sort of like reviving those concepts and you'd like to see them on television, but they got rejected?
Stan, I'll let you answer that because your mind is much more vivid than mine.
Well, our play Silver Foxes, I still think it's a funny, viable show about 3 older gay men. So we just, found another way to hopefully we'll get there as a series, but right now we're doing it as theater around the country, hopefully. But it reminded me of Lucy. Nobody wanted Desi Arnaz to play Ricky Ricardo, and she turned it into a short theater piece, and she traveled around and said to CBS, look, they're loving it. Another show we turned into a web series with Barry Bostwick, Meredith Baxter, and Elizabeth Keener called Skirt Chasers, about a strange father and his lesbian daughter, and they both chase women and fuck up their relationships because they're players.
Wow.
Everyone said this is funny. We've never seen it. Oh no, we have our one lesbian show of the year.
Yeah.
So we ended up
Amazing.
turning it into a web series, and and I got to direct some. Amanda Burst. Have you worked with Amanda?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so she directed a bunch of those.
She's great.
Yeah.
You know, what was it? The Netflix show with God, Frank, what is wrong with you today? Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin.
Oh, Grace and Frankie.
Grace and Frankie, their husbands left them for each other.
Yeah.
That should have opened up some.
Let me ask the both of you.
You would think it would, but it
Yeah.
didn't. It did not.
Let me ask the both of you. You know, Silver Foxes has been called like gay man's Golden Girls, right? That's the bill on it. Is it easier or harder, like to pitch a show and have it successful if you're doing, you know, sexual content, you know, about lesbians or gay or whatever? Is it harder or easier? Is it an advantage or is it an
here's
impediment?
the thing. I'm gonna push back on that.
Okay.
So just because it's gay and lesbian does not mean it's sexual. So I think a lot of people think that it is. It's just human stories. I mean, it was like Golden Girls were just relatable stories. Yes, it was a perspective of older women, but people, I think, get scared because, you know, it's going to be sexual when it's just, you know.
Right, I get
But so much of the people you're pitching to are gay or lesbian.
It didn't matter.
I know.
It didn't matter. They were even more scared of it because it would put them, you know, every executive is scared to put themselves out there.
I'm going to ask.
Relatable stories.
I'm going to ask you a different question. I'm going to rephrase the question.
Okay.
Do you find that being an older writer is a greater deterrent to you pitching stories?
Interesting.
Because ageism really is a factor in Hollywood, no matter what you say.
Definitely. I mean, but I saw that happen. We would get, you know, literally 4 or 5 offers to be on sitcoms, and then the older you get, it was just like, no. Like, they think that you will be stuck in a certain way, and it, you know, maybe it is for some, you know, but some people, you know, I feel I'm always out there and, you know, very interested in new music and what's happening in the world. And it's also good to have perspective on life that we have being older.
Well, I want to rephrase the question again that I asked you, and the pushback you gave me was super valid. I think our sexuality is such a small part of our whole personality. Really, it's only a minor part of who we really are. But again, is it an impediment or an advantage if you go down that road? You know, as a writer.
You mean comparing shows to other shows?
No, I mean, if you go into if you pitch a lesbian show, if you pitch a gay show, is it harder or is it easier? You think to get? Is it an advantage or is it an impediment? That's what
it's harder. There's certain times when it's been to my advantage. I think on Roseanne, they wanted to have 2 gay writers. So Tom Arnold would be yelling in the halls, "Where's my gay guys?" And we're like, you really shouldn't say that out loud. So that was an advantage. They were looking for that slot, so to speak. But then when we went to do our own show, Rita Rocks, and it got picked up on Lifetime after we made a great pilot, the head of Lifetime said you couldn't run the show because you were 2 gay men that didn't have kids and were not family, didn't have family. Again, that would be
double-edged
illegal.
sword. Yeah.
And we said, well, you know, we came from families. You don't just hatch gay people, you know. I grew up in a Midwestern place, and I'm writing about Detroit and how I grew up, and that still didn't do the trick. So, and we had written for Roseanne, but yeah. So,
well, you know, now gay and lesbian people aren't even considered diverse anymore.
I know. I have friends that say that, and you know, and being Jewish isn't diverse, and yeah. So there you go. But you know, there's
a double-edged sword. It can help. It can hurt. It doesn't. Yeah, there's no real.
I have to look at it. To me, it's a good thing. It gives me why I look at the world in a certain way, and again, talk about that in the book. Why I feel sensitive and seeing writing for women and having, you know, listening to my mother and really her being a huge part of my life and my she was my biggest cheerleader before she passed 2 years ago. And yeah, so.
Stan, let me ask you, as a writer, you're written, I mean, you're so prolific, it's ridiculous. Your plays and blogs and movies and TV and
Books.
Like enough already,
books.
right?
Yeah,
Books.
no, but
Stop
I mean,
already.
you're so prolific. Do you have a process like, I read once Robert Cano, the guy who did the definitive books about LBJ. He used to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning, get dressed, put on a suit and tie, and go to an office and sit there and write for 8 hours, so he treated it like a job. Do you have that kind of process? Where do you get the time to do it? Do you do it 8 o'clock in the morning? I start, I'm going to work till 12. Is there any schedule?
I used to think that, and I loved going to an office, and I loved having a writing partner. Now it's just espresso and coffee, and I've just always been. My mind is bursting with ideas, so I keep pads everywhere. I'm writing down ideas. I'm just have been since a young kid very creative. I would make my own like birthday cards. For all the holidays and birthdays for everybody. I've never really had much of writer's block, but I don't know. I've been very fortunate. I just have this crazy drive, and I'm probably gonna have to slow down at some point.
Well, yeah, so I mean, the way I write, I guess pretty much you write in the shower. You write when you're driving. You write. You're writing. Your mind is always writing, but it's you edit on paper, but you're writing all the time. It's constant.
Yes, and that was a good thing about having a writing partner. Like Jim and I would meet, so we would meet pretty much every day during the week, and having that other person there. If you're ever feeling a lull, the other person will rise above and push you. So I was doing for a long time writing with Jim during the week, and then writing with my playwriting partner, Christian McLaughlin, on weekends. So I was writing 7 days a week before COVID. And then I kind of slowed down and now felt like I have enough content out there that I want to keep going. And I've been lucky with Anne Frank and my play Right Before I Go that they just can keep going and going and going. And I've been touring with Right Before I Go all over the United States. I did an East Coast 5-city tour with cast members from Gilmore Girls and Virginia Madsen, which was super cool. I did a version with Hill Harper in my hometown of Detroit. I just did it in Virginia, which was pretty cool.
Streams of revenue, my friend. Streams of revenue.
Well, the play is not that much of revenue, but
the book won't be either. But that's another story.
But it's important for me.
Yes.
Especially with the suicide, to go into these small towns and raise awareness, provoke discussion. I have gotten into a little trouble with different schools that were afraid of the content.
Fuck them.
Fuck them is right.
Fuck them.
I think Suicide Notes, Peter Honorati was in there, right? We had him on the show. Was he in the play, Peter?
Who? Peter Honorati.
Yeah. We had him on the show. He was in Suicide Notes, right?
He was in the first time we did it at the 2015 Fringe Festival. So I came back from Moscow specifically because I wanted to do the play. It was the first time we did it. I was not in the play then. It was just 4 actors reading the notes at music stands like love letters or vagina monologues. And then a director said I should tell my story with my friend in the play. And so I created a narrator character that was not going to be me. And the first time we did it, I said, just hire somebody old and funny. And they did. And he got a paying gig the day before. So the director said, Stan, you're doing it tonight. Wow. And I've been doing it ever since.
Very cool. I got to ask you one more thing, because as I was doing the research, it's amazing to me that, how eclectic you are. You're all over the place. I mean, it's everything. But then I saw you actually did ballet with Rudolph Nureyev. That's unbelievable. I mean, how could you be a part-time ballet dancer? I used to date a ballet dancer, this girl, and she told me, I said, what's it about? She goes, pain. It's about pain. It's about constant pain and constant work and discipline, just like anything else is, But how do you be a part-time ballet dancer? How do you squeeze that in?
How do you dance with Rudy?
And then dance with Rudy. How does that happen?
I was at NYU studying acting with Circle in the Square undergrad, and I had these dance teachers. I loved dancing, but I was never trained because boys didn't do that. And they said, you have all the you just need to get foundation and go to ballet just to get foundation. Like they tell football players and basketball players, you learn by your body because of the discipline of ballet. And I'm like, oh, ballet, it's horrible. And I went over to Joffrey Ballet. They had a program with NYU. I started taking classes at night, and I would literally be flying. Like the endorphins in my head were just like, whoa. I would walk back to my dorm, I think like feet off the ground. I was just flying home. And they liked me, and they said, hey, we're doing a show on Broadway for a month with Rudolph Nureyev. Would I want to be in it? And I'm like, are you kidding me? So, just a little thing I got to do, and not much dancing, but I got to be on a Broadway stage. Somehow I situated myself at the curtain call, standing right behind Rudolph Nureyev, so that when the audience
Somehow.
I wonder how that happened. Inching my way over. So I felt when the audience was standing on their feet, going "Bravo!" It was to me. But for a young kid to, go from the dorm every day to a Broadway theater and back, go through the backstage door, it was my one time being on Broadway, and it was really interesting. They told us not to talk to him. We literally got a memo: do not approach him. But he.
How long did it take you to approach him?
He came up to us. I'm very much, I bend the rules a little bit, but I don't want to get in trouble, so I didn't. Especially at that age, I was like maybe 19 or something.
Well, Stan, the book is The Girls from Golden to Gilmore.
From Golden to Gilmore.
Available February. The movie is Ladies of the 80s, A Divas Christmas. It premieres on December 2nd. You have been a fabulous guest. Fabulous.
Well, it was great seeing you, and you were always such a joy in a very chaotic experience.
Yeah, it was a great chaotic experience, that's for sure.
You were very level-headed, and that's what you want in a producer, to just calm everybody down. And you were great, and you always were. And so it's wonderful to see you. And
I promise I'll make it to. I'll promise I'll make it to the Anne Frank if you do it again.
We're gonna do it again. There's always a seat for you there.
Great, thank you, my friend.
Nice
Be
meeting
well.
you, Stan. Real pleasure.
Thank you. Nice meeting you. Bye.
Take care.
Good interview.
Yeah, great guest. Very good, very cool guest. I mean, amazing how many different things the guy did. He's everywhere. And, just really good guest.
Yeah, we did a good job of promoting him. That's for sure.
Well,
but
hell of a writer. Speaking of writers, we have a few books out.
We have a few books out. It's holiday season. Can you please? They were really good stocking stuffers, which is.
It's the holiday season.
It's These Lips Could Talk. If These Lips Could Talk by Frank Pace and Billy O'Connor, Lamar's Gamble, Combustible, and Confessions of a Bronx Bookie by the Bronx Bookie himself, Billy O'Connor.
Stuff them in your socks.
Stuff them in your socks. They're all really.
They're all good reads.
They really
are
good reads.
They're page turns.
And if you can support them, don't buy the books for us because we're not making that much money on them. But I think you'll enjoy them. I think you really enjoy them. Anyway,
thanks for looking in. We appreciate it as always.
Christmas is coming up, so
have a really good Christmas.
We're going to be on before Christmas.
We'll have a good Christmas anyway.
Well, in the interim, please say a little prayer for our friend Joe West that he gets elected to the Hall of Fame December 3rd. Anyway, be well, Derek. Thank you, Billy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys. Appreciate
you guys made it again.
You want to sign us off in another language, Derek?
Do svidaniya.
Do svidaniya.
Do svidaniya it is. Thank you.
Take care.
Next week's guest, umpire Joe West. Join us while we talk about baseball's Hall of Fame announcements.
We'll see you next week.